Welcome back, guys. This is episode 9 of a series where I put together a small Ranger, put a 90cc quad engine into it. I thank you so much for everyone who's supported the channel, who's subscribed, those comments, the likes, you name it. I appreciate it all. And please remember, just here, please subscribe. Help this channel grow. Help me do better videos and put more out there for you to watch. But without further ado, let's get into the next video. All right, guys, we're back into it again tonight. Tonight's mission is to take the body off the car again. Seems like I've done it a million times, but I'm gonna finish off welding this plate into position here, and then the next step is to mount those rack arms and tie rod ends to the front wheel hubs and get them pivoting properly, and then reconnect the A-arms on the bottom, and then remake the top section that I've cut out just there to make it all work again. So these two poles are the reason why that I cut this off originally. So I'm just going to cut those off there on both sides, re-weld that back into position, get that angle right, and then the next step would be to reconnect this section here to the top, which will give me those shock mounts back just there, and then I'll remake the section that goes down through there. So I've just loosely tacked this on again, which I cut off earlier. I need to make a brace that goes down there, but for now I'm going to put the A-arms back on, get those tie rod ends and rack arms working properly, then I'll work out where to connect that back down there afterwards. guys, it's come to a point where I can actually say I'm finished with the steering. It has been so difficult and stressful and time consuming. I've done a little bit off camera because a lot of it would have just been me standing there staring at it for, you know, half an hour at a time, just wondering how I'm gonna overcome these issues that I had with the suspension movement and where the rack pivots and whatnot. But I've got it on there now, it's mounted. I've got some spaces underneath just to lift it up a little bit better. I've adjusted it, it all works. So it's time to move on to the next thing. Some good news in the mail, the replacement gear for the starter motor drive has turned up. So right here is the damaged old one. You can see some teeth missing off the edge just there. Quite gnarly. And then we've got the brand newie. I've tried it on the engine and I have confirmed that the issue was the needle roller bearing had failed on the original one, and what that allowed to do, or what that allowed, was the teeth become out of mesh and just wipe the tips off like it has just there. Just an old age thing. So when you look closely there, you can see that that bearing section there, that ring is, well, it's probably more noticeable on that side. When you have a look, you can see it's a lot bigger than that one there, but it's because it's been wonking around when it's been on the engine. But when I go to fit it up, I'll show you the difference between the two and how they fit, and I'll show you the minimal movement that the new one has compared to the old one. So as you saw in 2 videos ago, the gear that I had, this one, it mounts just in there. It was broken grinding. So if you go back 2 videos ago, I think it was 6, potentially 6, I diagnosed the issue that was with this. So I'll get this back apart, we'll get it on there, and I'll show you the difference. So here is the original gear. I'll put it back on the shaft and I'll show you the difference. So when we put that on there, you can see the amount of free play that's just there, like back and forth, side to side free play. And then when we get the brand new one and chuck that on there, almost nothing. And that last little bit that I can feel just there will be taken up when I put the washer on. So let's get that on there. Washer first, new gear, push it in, second washer, and then we've got the retainer that goes on after it, which mounts just there like that. Can only go one way, because if you were to put that up the other way, it would clash on the casting of that housing just there. So only one way. Put that in there. So now that we're on the other side of the engine, you can see through the hole. That's where I could see those gears broken before. So that gear just in there, much more solid. And like I said, if you go back 2 videos ago, you'll see how much free play that actually had in there. So nice and smooth, looking good. So now that I've got the rack installed just here, I need to re-brace this top section that I've cut the lower backside off when I had to cut it off to install that rack. So I need to run a support bar from there backwards, so I'm going to connect it just here, weld it in, and then bend it and have it connect just up there. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to recycle some metal off this old section that was the top part that the seat sat on. So that section there looks perfect on both sides, so I'll cut it up and then we'll get it welded on there. So now that front section's all tacked in nicely just there, it's nicely supported. Next step is I'm going to try and tackle the wiring harness that I've got just underneath here. What I want to do with it, it's an absolute bird's nest at the moment, but what I want to do with it is I want to bare back all the insulation, look at the length of wiring and figure out better positions to mount all the hardware that needs to be mounted on the chassis and whatnot, and then put new conduit on it and make it look a lot neater. So it's another night and I'm back into it again. I've mentioned before in previous videos that if it's not one thing with this small Ranger, it's the next thing. So since I crashed it last time, if you go back and watch the video where I rolled it, I picked it back up and then I tried to start it and it wouldn't start, and I didn't think anything of it because I've been injured since then. And now that I'm back into it and I've got the starter motor fitted up and the new gear in there, I can now crank it and there's no spark. So I've got the spark plug just up there on an earth, and I can confirm that if I get the start switch here, maybe I could zoom in for you guys and we can focus on that tip there. And I'll crank it. Definitely no spark on that just there. So that's tonight's challenge, is to just go through with the multimeter, make sure that I haven't got any short to grounds or open circuit, or there's many connectors, so maybe I've got something in the wrong spot. But I'm just gonna go through it all, maybe work out what I need, order some parts, but I just wanna make sure that it isn't something that I put together wrong or busted when I crashed the bike, because when I did crash it, all the plastics here got blown apart when the wheel turned and it smashed up in there. So off camera, what I've done is I've set up everything on the quad, or the little Ranger, whatever you want to call it. Just here, all the electronics are cable tied up so they're not moving around. I'm just left with the bare wiring. The next step is to use the multimeter on the ohm setting, on the low setting. This is an auto reading multimeter, so it'll auto set the range of ohms that we're testing. I'm going to start with the ignition switch and work my way through the wiring and jot down the way that the circuit flows, so then I know that am I lacking earth or voltage somewhere, or there's an open circuit somewhere in this harness. At least that way I will basically know which way the current flows and where to test next. So yep, just gonna write it down on here bit by bit and work my way through it. I've tried to search the internet for a wiring diagram specific to this. This is a 2007 model Mars 90cc 2-stroke quad. Can't find anything specifically for the components that I've got. Who knows, you know, maybe somewhere along the lines they've changed components to get it running again. It's been a long time since it was brand new, so like I said, I can't find anything online that specifically says, you know, what it is of what I've got right here. So just going to go through it the old school way, test it, write it down, work out where the circuits are and aren't, and then hopefully I can figure out why it's got no spark. Alright, so where I'm up to right now is I've got the multimeter set to ohms, as you can see just there. I've got it set to the audible sound setting, which is displayed up there. It's just one click of the button here. It's a picture of like a sound symbol. It just makes a beep sound once you connect the two ends of the wires through another circuit and it's got a good connection. So I've clamped onto the earth terminal of the harness, which is the main body earth that goes to the earth terminal of the battery, and I've connected the other side to the pin that feeds into the key switch. And so basically what happens is when you are in a inhibit state, like no start, which is the far left, and then the far right, you have no earth, that's why it's not beeping. But if you move it to the center, then we've got 0.2, 0.3 ohms, which is basically perfect circuit through that switch and back up to the key switch just up there. So I'm going to move on from this. I've proven that that's working, so let's get into the next step. Bloody hell, I don't believe it. I found the issue with why it's not sparking. So let's get close to that spark plug just there. I'll zoom in, let's have a look. Hopefully we can see it just there when I hit the key. Try and get a little bit closer. Oh, that's a good shot just there. So now we have spark. What it was my fault. So when I put it back together after having it apart doing the steering rack, I didn't realize that on the CDI just there, which I think it's called, is for some reason there's a disconnect point just here for these 2 wires or 3 wires just there with the bullet connectors, and then they continue back down to another section over here where they've got another 2. Now this was under some tape and I didn't even realize that it went from black to white and white to black just underneath that section there. And I can't believe it, when I just finished clearing up all the wiring just there, I looked at it and I went, no way, I just found the issue. I'm hoping it's that, and I've just cranked it and I've just confirmed that we do have spark. So I do believe it'll start once we have some fuel. Thank God. Now I've got the spark plug in. Question is, will it start? All right, this is round 2. Got the fuel tank up there, gravity feeding into the carburetor just there. I'm hoping it'll start this time. Woohoo! All right guys, so you've just seen that fire up. Next thing I'm gonna get onto, what I wanted to do a long time ago was sort that wiring out, shorten it all up, pick where I'm gonna mount all the hardware and the modules on the frame, insulate all the wiring, and make it look a lot better than it did from factory. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so I've made a bit of progress. I've welded a plate across there for the mounting of the rest of the electrical components. It's coming together quite nicely. It's looking pretty neat. The next step, now that I've got all that mounted in its fixed position, is just to shorten the wiring. So wherever it travels to, make sure that there's no slack in the wiring, mount it properly, cut it, solder it, shorten it all up, get rid of this bird's nest, and it'll look a lot better. Here is where I'm up to with the progress. I've made a new B positive cable with a 15 amp fuse in there. I've run it down to the starter relay. I've shortened up all the positive harness, which was going everywhere, so it's looking nice and neat at the moment. I tackled that first because it's easy, it's just red, it's basic. The rest of it I've cable tied up to where I'll be putting the key in the little Ranger's dash, so I'm not sure how long that needs to be, so I've just sort of kept it along the frame and across and just up there at the moment, and all this will be fixed down properly once I know the length of everything else. So let's get back into the time lapse. So I'm just about done with the wiring now. It's all shortened up. Looks a little bit ugly at the moment because I haven't wrapped any insulation around it, but we've got the switches here which will go up to the dash, and then it's all neat around the front. So I'm going to take the wiring harness off, lay it on the bench, and then tape it all up. So there we have it. The wiring's all insulated, it's all taped up, cable tied into its position. Some of these parts are still a little bit loose because I need to pull it apart still and finish off welding all those bits that I've added to the front of the frame, but it's looking a lot neater, a lot more simplified. And now when we grab the switch, we put it in the run position, crank it. Happy days. All right, that's a wrap for today's video. Thank you so much for those who've stuck around to the very end. In this video, I fixed a lot of things. I fixed the starter motor issue, I fixed why it wasn't starting, and I've sorted out the wiring and made it a lot neater. In the next video that's coming up, I'm going to address the brake system again. I want to have foot pedals this time rather than having it on the steering wheel. It was too hard with the steering wheel turned for me to brake when I was moving along. I want to have a left-hand foot brake, a right-hand foot accelerator. Now that the wheels are smaller, I've got a little bit more room between the two wheels where my feet will rest. I'm going to make new foot rests there as well. So stick around for the next video, and thank you so much for watching, and remember to like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching.